Have you ever caught yourself thinking that you have once again found yourself in the same place, making the same mistakes that you promised yourself you would never remember again? It would seem that you have recognized all your weaknesses, understood which relationships or habits do not bring happiness, and vowed that you would never repeat the same steps. But once again, you are in the same cycle as before. This may seem fatal, but Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, offers a perspective that changes all perceptions of these repetitions. He argues that our mistakes are not simply random failures or consequences of our weakness, but rather a message from our unconscious. These mistakes do not just repeat for no reason. They suggest to us that there exists something important within us that needs attention. Jung believed that our conscious mind is only the tip of the iceberg, a small surface that we are aware of. Beneath it lies the unconscious part of our psyche, where invisible forces guiding our actions are located. These forces communicate with us through symbols, emotions, and repeating patterns. Often, the unconscious uses repetition to get through to us. If you repeatedly find yourself in similar situations or make the same mistakes, this is not a sign of your weakness or inadequacy, but rather a way in which the unconscious is trying to convey an important truth to you. Perhaps it is a wound that you are not ready to heal, or a situation that you continue to not recognize. It is as if your soul is crying out, "Look at me." But instead of hearing this call, we often ignore it, justifying ourselves or getting carried away by external factors that distract from this internal work. For example, if you constantly return to destructive relationships, your unconscious may be trying to restore balance by reproducing an unresolved dynamic from your past. This is not that you like to suffer. On the contrary, it is the soul's attempt to heal from what has remained unfinished. Jung also introduces the concept of the shadow, a part of us that we hide from the world and from ourselves. The shadow is not evil. It only consists of those parts of our personality that we suppress because they do not correspond to our desired image. And here is the paradox. The shadow does not disappear if it is ignored. On the contrary, it grows in an invisible, hidden form, influencing our actions, choices, and reactions. Those people who cause us irritation, those situations that annoy us, all of this may be a reflection of those parts of us that we do not acknowledge. When you repeatedly fall into the same trap, it is not a coincidence, but your inner world is asking for attention. It is important to understand that mistakes are not punishment, but signposts that show that unresolved issues are hidden inside you. For example, if you often find yourself in relationships that humiliate you, perhaps your unconscious continues to reproduce an old wound associated with low self-esteem. Or, if you endlessly enter into conflicts, perhaps you have not yet learned to defend your personal boundaries. Jung taught that confronting the shadow is an act of courage, not weakness. When you meet this hidden aspect of yourself, you take back the power that you gave to fears and unexpressed feelings. And here a real turning point occurs. Each mistake becomes a lesson, not a defeat. Instead of perceiving the repetition of mistakes as a failure, you begin to see in this opportunities for growth. By changing your perception, you not only change your attitude toward yourself, but also toward life in general. You stop looking for the guilty in the external world and begin to understand that it is precisely your internal patterns that require attention. And in the moment of realizing these patterns, you become free from their power. Mistakes stop repeating because you have already understood what lesson they carry. One of the most complex and frightening aspects of personal transformation is confronting yourself. It is easier to blame surrounding circumstances or fate for failing to change your life. This is a common way of avoiding responsibility for your choices and actions. But here is the thing. In order to truly transform your reality, you need to go through pain. Not because pain is a punishment, but because it is purification. Pain, as a process of healing, is necessary to free us from what constrains us, slows us down, and prevents us from growing. Remember the moments when everything seemed to be collapsing and you felt lost, as if life had lost its meaning. Most often, it is these moments that become the starting point for something new and important. Later, looking back, you can see how much became possible only after you let go of the old that no longer served you. Jung was convinced that the chaos we experience in such moments is not the end, but a transition to a new state. In the darkest points of life, we often find our light, if only we have the courage to look into them. Confronting your own mistakes and repeating patterns is not simply getting rid of them. It is discovering something greater. When you begin to understand these cycles, you begin to live in accordance with who you really are. Jung spoke of the syndrome of synchronicity, a phenomenon when external events seem to coincide with your internal state. This is not a coincidence. When you live in harmony with yourself, the world seems to conspire with you, throwing in the right people, opportunities, and events. But this level of consistency is available only to those who decide to be authentic. And authenticity is not something easy. To be real, you need to abandon the masks that we wear trying to meet the expectations of others. This process can be painful and even lonely, but its reward is a life that truly responds to your deepest needs. So, the next time you notice a repetition of old mistakes, stop. Instead of judging yourself, ask yourself the question, what is life trying to tell me? What part of myself have I not yet accepted? After all, it is inside us that the true answer is hidden, which is capable of changing everything. You have always had the power to transform your life. Every repeating pattern that you notice is a chance to realize the interconnection of everything that happens. All your decisions, dreams, wounds, even those that you would not want to remember, have created the reality in which you now live. And although it may be difficult to accept, understanding that you are the creator of your reality gives incredible freedom. When you realize that everything around you is a mirror of your inner world, it becomes obvious that toxic relationships, old mistakes, and failures are not the result of external influence, but your invitation to delve deeper into yourself. And here is the main paradox. If you created these patterns, you also have the power to change them. Jung said that the key to getting out of a vicious circle is the integration of all parts of yourself. And those parts that seem weak, unwanted, or even destructive also require recognition and acceptance. When you abandon them, you unconsciously give these parts more power. And the more of this power, the more often they will manifest themselves through mistakes, conflicts, and suffering. Integration of oneself is not a quick and easy process. It requires time, patience, and honesty with oneself. But as soon as you decide on this path, your life will begin to change. You will no longer be a victim of your patterns, but will become the author of your destiny. Many of the repeating cycles in our life are deeply rooted in the beliefs that we learned in childhood. If in childhood you were instilled with a feeling of worthlessness, you may be constantly seeking external confirmation of your value, repeatedly finding yourself in relationships or situations where you have to prove your significance. And if from a young age you were accustomed to consider the world dangerous, then you probably feel constant anxiety and unconsciously attract situations that confirm your fear. Carl Jung urges us to doubt these beliefs, reminding us that they are not immutable truths, but only stories that we have learned and that now control our lives. And here lies an important turning point. You are not those stories that you were told. You are not defined by your past or mistakes. You are not limited by the labels that others have put on you. You are something more than a set of these stories, and it is in your power to rewrite your own life scenario, choose a new path, and create a reality that will fully reflect your true essence. Nevertheless, Many of us live without knowing ourselves, without realizing our authenticity. We were taught to conform, to follow other people's paths. And often we suppress our own desires, fearing that we will be rejected. However, as Jung emphasizes, this ignoring of our essence has its price. This price manifests itself in repeating mistakes, internal emptiness, and the feeling that something is always missing, no matter how hard you try. Authenticity is not just being yourself. It is the process of finding who you are in reality, outside of all social expectations and personal wounds. This path requires deep self-analysis, exploration of your motives, and above all, courage. Courage to look into those parts of yourself that you have long tried to ignore. When you begin to return to your true self, something amazing happens. You begin to live in accordance with your inner truth. And as soon as you realize this, your life begins to be built in harmony. But where to begin? How to free yourself from deep patterns that seem unconquerable? The answer lies in what is truly dear to you, in self-observation. Start by listening to your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. When something causes you a strong feeling, ask yourself questions. Why did I react like this? What do I really feel? Where does this fear or uncertainty come from? Answers to these questions can lead you to a surprisingly deep understanding of yourself. And as you dig deeper, an even more important realization will unfold. You are not alone in this. Everyone has their own shadows, their own patterns, and their own internal battles. By sharing your journey, opening up to others from a position of authenticity, you not only heal yourself, but also inspire those around you to follow your example. After all, when at least one person decides to live in harmony with themselves, this can become a spark that ignites others. His light begins to touch and illuminate those who are nearby. Jung once said that there is no heavier burden for the soul than an unlived life. This reminds us that every time we ignore our dreams, suppress our emotions, or follow a path that does not suit us, we betray ourselves. But the good news is that even a small step towards authenticity already has enormous significance. In the process of self-knowledge, we begin to understand that there are no such things as mistakes. There are only lessons. Every experience, every moment that would seem to knock us off course, in reality offers a chance to look inside ourselves and discover something important. Jung taught us that the secret is not in changing the external world, but in transforming our relationship with ourselves. The external world that you see is only a reflection of what is happening inside you. And when you begin to change internally, everything around begins to change along with you. Imagine that every moment when you felt lost, every failed attempt, every ruined relationship, were not really just random mistakes or misfortunes. These were lessons that helped you uncover those parts of yourself that required attention, healing, and, most importantly, integration. As Jung taught, integration is the process of uniting all aspects of your personality, including those that you may have tried to ignore or suppress. This is not always an easy path, because often we reject those parts of ourselves that seem uncomfortable or difficult to accept. But it is precisely in this process, in the awareness and acceptance of these parts, that we become whole. But how to actually start this process? First, you need to learn to observe yourself, but not from a position of criticism or condemnation, but with curiosity and compassion. It is important to learn to ask yourself questions not out of a desire to accuse, but out of a desire to understand. For example, instead of asking why this is happening to me again, ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? This small change in your approach can open new horizons and allow you to look at familiar things from a different angle. After all, when you begin to look at your patterns with love and honesty, you begin to understand that behind every struggle of yours lies an important message that you need to hear. Your soul wants you to accept this message because it is precisely it that will lead you to a deeper understanding of yourself. However, this path will not be straight and linear. There will be days when it will seem to you that you are moving forward with confidence and clarity. But there will also be those moments when it would seem that you are again falling into old traps. These moments when it seems to you that you are sliding back are not regression. On the contrary, they are important because they give you the opportunity to look at your lessons from a new, more mature point of view. As Jung said, personal growth is not a linear process, but a spiral along which we move ever deeper. Every time you encounter the same patterns, you begin to perceive them with greater understanding, wisdom, and inner strength. And so, over time, these repeating cycles begin to lose their power. What used to seem insurmountable no longer has such power. You stop reacting in the usual way and instead begin to act with greater awareness and are no longer afraid of what once paralyzed you. This process includes confronting your fears, those invisible barriers that have always held you in place. The fear of being rejected can force you to seek approval in those places where it is impossible to find, while the fear of failure keeps you safe in the familiar, even if it means staying in what limits you. Jung taught that fear should not be your enemy. On the contrary, it can become your guide. Behind every fear hides something valuable, an unsaid desire, a hidden part of you that strives for liberation. When you stop running away from your fears and begin to meet them face to face, you discover that in reality, they are not as scary as they seemed. It's like shadows. They can scare at a distance, but it's worth getting closer as they lose their strength. By going through your fears and not avoiding them, you return to yourself parts of your personality that you once rejected or forgot. This makes you stronger, more holistic, and more deeply connected with your true self. Confronting what we are afraid of can be frightening, but it is also the moment when we find our real strength and begin to live truly. In this process lies the opportunity for transformation. And it is precisely through the acceptance of your fears and weaknesses that we achieve genuine freedom. Imagine that every person and every situation that once caused you pain or irritation begins to serve you a completely different purpose. You stop seeing obstacles in them and begin to perceive them as mirrors that reflect those aspects of your I that still need healing. Relationships that drained your energy and took away strength begin to dissolve naturally, freeing up space for new connections and opportunities. At this moment, you begin to understand that everything in your life begins to change as soon as you begin to live in complete authenticity. One of the most amazing gifts that this process brings is synchronicity, a concept that Carl Jung considered most important. What used to seem like random coincidences is now filled with the deepest meaning. You meet the right people at the right time. Opportunities appear that would be impossible to plan, and suddenly doors open that were previously closed. Life begins to flow with an ease and harmony that seemed impossible. This is not magic, but simply the natural result of beginning to live in harmony with yourself, with who you really are. But to achieve this state requires incredible willingness to let go. This may sound paradoxical. How to let go of something that has always seemed a part of you. However, letting go is not weakness, an act of the highest manifestation of love for yourself. It is the ability to recognize that certain people, beliefs, and situations no longer serve your growth. It is freedom from what keeps you in old cycles and the creation of space for what can elevate you and lead to new heights. At first, letting go may seem painful, like losing something important, but in reality, it is one of the most liberating things you can do. Every time you let go of something that no longer corresponds to your path, you open space for what can be much better and more creative. The question here is simple but complex at the same time. Are you ready to let go of what holds you in old patterns, fears, and dissatisfaction? Are you ready to meet those shadows that hide in your inner world and allow yourself to become who you are always meant to be? If your answer is yes, you are already on the path to a great inner discovery. This step, no matter how small it may seem, has the power to change everything. After all, over time, in this journey of self-knowledge, you will begin to realize an amazing truth. Everything you need for change is already inside you. It is not something that can be found in books, courses, or other people. It is a force that has always been part of you. Only now are you ready to recognize it. Jung said, "What you resist persists." This means that if you continue to avoid your fears, shadows, or deep patterns, they will return to your life again and again. But as soon as you decide to confront them, your reality will begin to change. Resistance to change is a natural process. After all, the familiar, even painful, seems safer than the unknown. But what if you take a leap of faith and believe that behind this unknown lies something much better than what you leave behind? Jung said that the emptiness we feel when we let go of something is not the end, but a sacred space in which something new can grow. It's like pruning old branches from a tree to make room for new, fresh leaves. When you decide to let go, you regain your strength. When you cling to something that limits you, you give your energy to something that no longer has a place in your life. But freeing up space for the better, you send a clear signal to your subconscious that you are ready for more and better. And here, the real magic happens. As soon as you let go, the universe begins to respond. Doors that were once closed begin to open, and opportunities appear. The right people, new connections, and prospects begin to appear in your life. This does not mean that the path will be easy, and it will not always be free from difficulties, but each challenge on this path will become a new lesson, an opportunity to confirm your commitment to yourself and your true essence. True transformation does not happen when you change the world around you. It begins inside you when you begin to truly treat yourself with respect and compassion. When you begin to listen to your inner voice, respect your needs, and build boundaries, magic happens. Old connections that no longer correspond to your new state begin to disappear, and in their place new ones appear that support and inspire you. This is how you attract into your life what will truly correspond to you. Carl Jung said that relationships are mirrors reflecting our inner world. The people who appear in your life seem to show you those parts of yourself that require attention, healing, or growth. Even the most complex, painful relationships are not coincidences. These are lessons that will help you see yourself in a new way, understand what needs to be changed in your experience and behavior. Instead of blaming others for your emotions, Jung suggested looking inside yourself and asking, what lesson is hidden in this? This shift of focus from accusations to awareness of one's own responsibility for one's own experience opens doors to true freedom. When you take responsibility for your life, not in the sense of guilt, but in the sense of strength, you begin to free yourself from dependencies and expectations. You understand that your happiness does not depend on external circumstances, but on how you build relationships with yourself. If you start living in authenticity, sincerity, and peace with yourself, the world around you will begin to change, reflecting your inner harmony. And here an amazing truth arises. You no longer need the world to change in order to become happy. It begins to change by itself because you yourself become a different person. Your habits, which previously carried suffering, now begin to support you. People who once caused pain or anger cease to have an influence on your emotions. Opportunities that seemed rare appear with surprising ease. But in order for this to happen, you need to take a step. It does not have to be huge or dramatic. It can be as simple as a pause, a deep breath, or a simple observation of your thoughts and feelings without judgment. This step is the beginning of the path that you choose every day. And the key point is that this step symbolizes your commitment to yourself. Every time you choose to be honest with yourself and move towards your authenticity, you change your life. When you begin to live in harmony with yourself, everything around you begins to reflect this harmony. You stop looking for happiness in the external world because it begins to come from within. Problems that once seemed insurmountable become manageable. People who once influenced your mood cease to have such power. Opportunities that were previously rare begin to come into your life effortlessly. This process is not associated with perfection or the search for all the right answers. This is the path of honesty with oneself, acceptance of one's weaknesses, one's shadows, one's pain. This is the path to integrating one's lessons and living in harmony with who you really are. Jung taught us that the greatest challenge is not an external circumstance, but our confrontation with ourselves. Confronting our old patterns and mistakes is not a punishment, but an opportunity for growth. When you encounter recurring situations, this is an invitation for you to change your view of yourself and your reactions. Imagine that every challenge you face is not a failure, but a hidden teacher. All those relationships, work, or inner struggles that would seem to have not given you the desired result, these are parts of a broader plan that was foreseen by your psyche in order to lead you to a deeper self-knowledge. When you begin to look at everything through the prism of awareness of the lessons that stand behind difficult moments, your life changes. Jung said that nothing happens by chance. Everything has its purpose. If you are ready to hear and accept this truth, then this path becomes a real liberation. And although this path may be difficult and full of doubts, in these doubts lies great power. Because it is precisely in vulnerability, in moments when you open your feelings, become more honest with yourself, that true strength appears. In those moments when you stop hiding your emotions and begin to trust your intuition, you open the doors to authenticity. Jung saw not weakness, but strength in vulnerability. In those moments when you stop pretending and allow yourself to be what you are in reality, you become truly strong. There is nothing more powerful than living in harmony with yourself, being true to yourself, and exploring your inner path. This path of self-knowledge and change is not easy, and you will surely notice that in the process of reconnecting to yourself, some things, people, or circumstances will begin to disappear, and it will hurt, because such changes are always associated with letting go, with saying goodbye to what may have seemed an integral part of your life. But it is important to understand that you are not losing, but freeing up space. This space is for new connections, opportunities, experiences that will correspond to your new state, your inner transformation. After all, cleansing is not just getting rid of the unnecessary. It is creating emptiness into which something higher enters that supports you in this new cycle. Something amazing happens when you start letting go of what doesn't serve your growth. The energy that was previously slowed down or unbalanced begins to shift, and the world in front of you begins to change. Your focus shifts. You no longer pay attention to what you lack, but begin to appreciate what you already have. And this shift in internal view not only changes your emotional state, but also transforms your experience, attracts into your life new circumstances and people who correspond to your new clarity and purposefulness. But the path will not always be smooth. Sometimes it will seem to you that you are moving forward, and sometimes it will seem to you that you are sliding back. This is perfectly normal. There are moments of doubt, fear, resistance, but these moments are not deviations from the path, but an integral part of it. Jung argued that genuine growth is impossible without encountering our shadows, without going through chaos. Because it is precisely in these dark, unclear moments that light arises and those answers that you have been looking for so long begin to manifest. Imagine that your life is a river. Sometimes its waters are calm and everything flows smoothly. And sometimes there are stones, turbulent currents, even waterfalls. But these obstacles do not exist to stop you. They are created to help you become stronger, learn to be flexible, and find balance in chaos, teach you to adapt, and discover new paths for yourself. These trials are not accidental. They make you more mature and wise. And although the path may be difficult, each overcome obstacle brings you closer to who you really are. One of the most amazing truths that opens up to you on this path is that you are not alone. Each of us faces internal struggles and repeating patterns that in one way or another come into our lives. But what is important, although our experience may be unique, in each of us there is something common, something universal in this striving for self-knowledge and growth. When you open up to the world, when you share your experiences with others, you not only create connections, but also spread your authenticity. After all, when one person dares to be themselves, it gives others permission to do the same. The transformation that takes place inside you does not remain only with you. Your choices, your energy, your way of being in the world can inspire others. This may start as a personal journey, but it will always go beyond you. Your inner work, those realizations that you experience, can become a catalyst for change for other people as well. Your efforts in self-knowledge and inner growth can become a spark for someone who is just beginning their path. And that is why it is important to share your thoughts, to share your experiences, because in the world, there is always someone who is looking for the same response, and your words may become for this person exactly what they need. Do not keep these ideas and revelations only for yourself. If something from what has been said touched your heart or made you think, share it with those who may be looking. Your words can become the beginning of change for another person, just as once someone's words became a light for you in dark moments. This creates a chain of changes supporting a community of people striving to live in harmony with themselves. Every time you share this message, you contribute to creating a space where people can be authentic. Let this be your first step to make the choice to live sincerely and with awareness. Dare to open up to yourself and the world. And remember, this path is not lonely. We are all here supporting each other and moving together. When you are ready for change, when you are ready to work on yourself, you not only transform your life, but also inspire others. Share this with the world. After all, every step, every action that you take towards your growth affects not only you, but also those who are nearby. Life is full of endless possibilities, and every day is a chance to start over. See you on the path. And remember, transformation starts with you, but it doesn't end only with you.